So I'll try something new this evening, which is starting punctually. And if some other people arrive, that will be wonderful, and we can welcome them as as they arrive. So let's just enjoy 5 minutes together of settling into ourselves, into the moment, into the body. However we might be experiencing this body. Perhaps there's a swirl, or we can feel settling, or there's some agitation. Okay, this is what's here, no problem. Recognizing this. Oh, it's like this. And resting into awareness of this experience. Noticing the noticing without so much concern about that which is being noticed. It can be sounds or tastes. Maybe the eyes are open and the gaze is falling gently on something relatively still or nourishing in some other way. Great. Noticing that and noticing how it is to notice it. And first and foremost, resting and opening, attuning to the arising and passing of experience. Just like the arising and passing of the sound of the bell. I'll invite 3 bells, and in 5 minutes I'll invite 2. Enjoy coming home to yourself in the present moment. Thank you for your presence and your practice, for arriving here. This evening when I made the write-up for tonight, I said we would have silent practice, and I'm totally into silent practice. And I'm also happy to offer some more words in the practice period. My thought was that we would have a full-on 45 minutes of practice, because I think sometimes what happens is there's a little bit too much, let me try that again. I find that for myself, relying on the practice is where the magic actually happens, not on knowledge or information or that kind of thing. It's like, oh, being in it. And then the insights arise, or the transformation happens, or I was like, oh, I didn't even know it was. And then we'll have lots of time to explore that together. And that 45 minutes would be offered with intervals. So you could stay in one posture for 45 minutes if that's supported for you, or you could move into 3 different postures or back and forth, so that I'll bring bells into start us, and then at 15 and 30 and then at 45 to close. And so if you're somewhere other than here, obviously you can do whatever you want on your postures. Here we're set up with a circle. You're invited to start in the circle if you like, where you can sit on the floor or sit on a chair, or just outside of the circle or a few places to lie down. You can get more cushioning things over there if you want to lie down and the floor on the one cushion isn't quite sufficient. And then you can walk. Right? There's space in the hallway to walk, in the library, and in the office, and in a very small circle in the kitchen or in the dining room, or even in the lobby. Right? So we've got 7 places to walk, so plenty of room for everyone to have their own walking area, back and forth or circular. The Buddha taught very clearly that it didn't matter what posture you were in. You could cultivate awareness, presence, whatever you want, however you want to translate sati, which mostly gets translated as mindfulness, but that's available anytime, day or night. We can be aware of anything. We can be aware of how we're feeling in the mind, or how like chilled out we're feeling, or frustrated or angry or blissed or agitated in the body. Oh my God, my ankle, right? Okay, when awareness is there, when sati is there to meet it, it has a different potency. There's an all-chemical reaction. There's an alchemy that occurs. There's a transition that happens when we're present to it. It's this balm, this gift of love and care and kindness and attention. It's like, oh, that's what's going on? Andrea Fella a few times recently has described it as like a very good friend, like a magical good friend, a friend you will never have in a physical form. But that friend is completely present, completely there for you, for whatever it is that's here, right? And that friend, Sati, helps us, this amalgamation of process, this Augusta Hopkins or whoever you are, right, helps us to meet it and greet it and to know it's a conditioned and arising and passing experience. And there's less and less and less and less of a need to like get in there and try to fix it and control it and make it otherwise. Like, oh, this is what's here right now. It's changing. It's changing whether I like it or don't like it, right? So let's spend 45 minutes in practice. And so, by show of hands, and then Michael, I assume you're okay whatever we do, but if you want to vote in the chat, you can vote in the chat. By show of hands, does anyone have a preference? And maybe no one will ever raise their hands because you're all like, yeah, whatever, it's okay, I don't care. But if anyone's willing to admit they have a preference, does anyone have a preference for something closer to silence? Great. And does anyone have a preference for more guidance? Great, great. All right, so that's completely even. Fabulous. Let's see what happens. All right, so please, if there are any questions or comments, there's space for that. Great. So please, choosing a posture that's comfortable, one in which you can rest. You know, and maybe in these 45 minutes, You actually need to sleep. The body needs to sleep, and that's what happens. Fine. Fine. If you don't want to sleep and the body wants to lie down, you can have the eyes open. Also, you might imagine that the floor is directly behind me. You can rest your upper arms on the floor and then your forearms coming off of the floor at 90 degrees with your palms facing one another. And then you can get interested in the energy that's moving between the palms. I've practiced a lot lying down, and it can be fun to notice how the hands kind of start to soften as I get, and they get like really tight as I start to over effort. It can be a great guide for practice. And then if you fall asleep, the hands kind of drop on the body, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I was asleep. So if you want to lie down and you don't want to sleep, the arms like that can be great. If you're feeling particularly sleepy, standing or walking is super, super helpful. I think Lisa's going to start standing or walking or something like that. It's like, listen to your body. I don't know what you need, right? And you might feel like you don't know what you need too, but there's something inside of you that can guide you. And that's where it is. It's in here, right? It's in the heart, it's in the gut, it's in the core of our being. As we start to stop and settle and get a little bit of quiet and space, it can be discerned. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. So you'll get a mix of silence and guidance because that was the ask. And there's some taking care of one's body occurring here in the space, so we'll create space for that. And everyone else continuing to find what your body needs, right? Maybe it needs to use the toilet or blow your nose, or you need some water, or you need a couple more layers, or maybe one less layer. Often when I stop and settle it, I'm suddenly like, I need chapstick right now, right? So just like listening to your body, allowing the wisdom of your body, allowing the wisdom of your body space to express itself. I'm going to sing to you for a moment because I looked at the clock and it says 5:55. And I've had to practice a little bit more than the 2 months of this year. When I notice a series like that, ones or fives or any digit. Sabe sata Suki hon tu Sabe sata Suki hon tu Sabe sata Suki hon tu. May all beings be happy. This word, Suki, can be thought of as sweet or happy or peaceful or ease. There's so many translations for these Pali and Sanskrit terms. Sukha, it's like the opposite of dukkha, and Sukhi is just how it's declined. Sabe is all, Sata is beings. So people and all living beings. You can get as small as the microbes in our bodies, or gnats and ants, bees and snakes and rabbits and deer and bear, humans and elephants, tigers and lions and bears, like all of the beings, those near and far, Sabe, Sata, Sukhi, peace, ease, contentment. I enjoy that translation a lot. Hontu is the verb to be. I'll offer it a couple more times. Sabe, Sata, ta, Suki hon tu, Sabe sata, 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 Suki hon tu. Resting into yourself, receiving the bells of the church next door. And receiving these bells. First, a little wake-up sound to let the bell and the listener know that the bell will be invited to sing, and then 3 full invitations of the bell. May the sound of the bell call you home to yourself, to the present moment, into awareness. Awareness of whatever it is you might be aware of, whatever is drawing your attention. Beginning to be curious about this experience of being aware. Noticing what you are aware of, and that you are aware. Feeling the body, whatever it's doing. becoming interested, curious. This direct experience arising, passing, always changing. Perhaps we notice a breath, and then we notice a sound, a sensation in the heart, or contraction, or expansion. Noticing what you notice. These are the experiences of our lives. And the heart responds, it likes it or it doesn't like it. No problem. This too can be known. Oh, yeah. Okay, got you. I'm here for you. Learning through practice to be here with ourselves, aware while experiencing life. Sometimes it may feel like we're going out to the object of our awareness, out to a sound, out to a thought. And sometimes it may feel like we're receiving that which we are knowing, receiving the sound, or receiving the thought. And we can begin to get curious about how that experience feels in the body. How this heart, mind, body organism is receiving or relating to this ever-changing flow of experience. Learning to be with the unfolding. it's like this. Open, alert, receptive, interested. Noticing the swirl coming out of our active lives into this gift of stillness. There's going to be a residue, no problem. It all settles quite naturally until it gets agitated again. No biggie. We don't have to do anything. We can rest and be. And that condition of resting, of stopping, of gradually allowing ourselves to be, that condition creates the settling. Cause and effect. And you don't have to stay perfectly still. Stopping is not about becoming a statue. As we stop and listen in to these heart, mind, bodies, wisdom emerges and we might discern, oh, this posture is actually not working for this body. And with awareness, with kindness, with gentleness and love, we make skillful adjustments. Tending to ourselves and the moment with love and care. Learning to be here for ourselves. We're with ourselves 24/7. Why not tend to ourselves and care for ourselves? continuing in the posture you've chosen, or fully experiencing the transition as you move into a different posture and form for cultivating mindfulness and awareness. enjoying the posture you're in, or moving into a third posture, continuing to listen in to the wisdom of your own experience. Resting, opening, and receiving the arising and passing of each moment, whatever gifts, whatever sorrows the moment might bring. Practicing with receiving the sound of the bell as a support for this. Really giving yourself to the bell. Sounds come and sounds go. Noticing how the heart, mind, body respond to the various arising and passing experiences. Noticing how it feels in there, in you, inside. To be awake, asleep, alert, groggy. This is knowing how it is in the moment. Beautiful. And of course, we're always aware of something, right? Awareness is happening. Try not being aware. Good luck. It's like trying not to breathe. It's happening, and yet a lot of the time we're missing it. We are not aware of being aware. And that awareness that we are cultivating, that is cultivating itself as we stop and rest and get interested and curious, it's game-changing. It leads to freedom quite naturally on its own. That is what happens as we put in the time consciously being with ourselves, consciously being with the moment, cultivating receptivity, curiosity, interest, openness. A famous passage from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous has been reverberating in my head a lot recently. So I'll offer it to you. It's from the chapter, Acceptance Was the Answer. And acceptance is the answer to all of my problems. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life, unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. I'll read that again at the end. I think that encapsulates the whole of it, but I'll give you a couple more paragraphs for a little juice. And of course, translate. These words were written some time ago by straight white guys, and they use words that can be thought of as placeholders for words that are more supportive for you. So find your own way. But it goes on to say, nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage, and all the people merely players." He forgot to mention that I was the chief critic. I was always able to see the flaw in every person, every situation, and I was always glad to point it out because I knew you wanted perfection just as I did. Alcoholics Anonymous and acceptance have taught me that there's a bit of good in the worst of us and a bit of bad in the best of us. That we are all children of God and that we each have a right to be here. When I complain about me or about you, I am complaining about God's handiwork. And I am saying that I know better than God. For years, I was sure the worst thing that could happen to a nice guy like me would be that I would turn out to be an alcoholic. Today, I find it's the best thing that has ever happened to me. This proves I don't know what's good for me. And if I don't know what's good for me, then I don't know what's good or bad for you or for anyone. So I'm better off if I don't give advice, don't figure I know what's best, and just accept life on life's terms as it is today, especially my own life as it actually is. Before AA, I judged myself by my intentions, while the world was judging me by my actions. So that's just a couple paragraphs from the AA Big Book, from the chapter Acceptance Was the Answer, and again, the encapsulation. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Continuing with the cultivation of awareness, being present with yourself as you bring in some movement, really listening into the heart, into the gut, into the body to discern what movement is helpful, is supportive. You might start out small and get bigger. Letting your own wisdom guide you. There's no right here. That's delusion. Movement and light. And as you're ready, coming back to the circle. So we have lots of time to hear what's here, get some responses from me, see if anything useful shows up. And as always, we might refer to this as Q&A because that's the old term and expression, but I don't have any answers, right? I have a response or two or none and some experience to share on the topic, maybe, or some relating in. But the answers are found in here, right? They're found in that stillness. They're in the heart or in the gut. You know. I don't know. No one knows. Yeah, so I guess I'll riff on that for just a little bit longer. I have an ancient habit of wanting to know what the right thing is, like the answer or the activity or the whatever. Growing up in an alcoholic home, generations of alcoholism and various forms of mental illness and dysfunction. I was like, just tell me what you want me to do so I can do it right, so everything will be okay. You know, that was my mantra, and I didn't even recognize it, but I did. I came to recognize it as a mantra that I was carrying around maybe 15 years ago. And over time, it's fallen away more and more and more. And it shows up, particularly in times of stress. times of difficulty, and I want you to solve the problem. Whether you're the doctor or the physical therapist or the person at the shoe store, like, it's like, just give me the shoes. I don't know which shoes. How could I know? It's your specialty. And I think that in this time that I think my friend coined this term, although I have no idea. I give her credit for it, Kim Fleischer. Maybe she picked it up somewhere else, but the poly crisis. Right? Like, we're in a poly crisis. There's just so much shit going down that's so fucked up. And yeah. And we could run around, which I think is part of what some entities want us to do, run around trying to put out all the fires and get none of them out and just be completely exhausted. And if that's what you're called to do, great. You get to do you. And what's really supporting me is that no one is some fucked up shit. It's way bigger than me. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where it's come from. I don't know where it's going. I know that 8 years ago, a little bit more than 8 years ago, during the campaigning 8 years ago, I was with a dear Dharma teacher and friend of mine. I think of him as a friend. Larry Ward, he's a senior Dharma teacher in the Plum Village tradition. And I was with him up in the Pacific Northwest, and we were coming out of a retreat or going into a retreat. I don't remember. I think I might have been coming out of, anyway, we were watching Saturday Night Live. It's like 5 or 6 of us gathered together. And there were impersonations of the candidates. And Larry was just like, yeah, we created this. Like, this is a response. This is a response to Obama. And Larry's African-American man, dark-skinned. And he's like, yeah, this country wasn't ready for a black president. And this is the aftermath of that. This is the whiplash of that experience, this bullshit. And having someone who I respect so much lay that out, and particularly a Dharma teacher, and particularly a black man, as we came into what was the first term, it helped me not put it on that person. Like, not give him the authority, but be like, oh, this is what this country created. Like, this is the aftermath. Like, this is where we are. Okay. I'm shocked that it's happening again. And, like, that's part of the bubble that I live in. It's like the first time around when Pennsylvania, I'm from Philly, when Pennsylvania went red, I was like, what? No. It's like, yeah, like, this is what happens. And then when Wisconsin went red, like, my girlfriend is from Wisconsin, like, yes. And this is where we are. And pointing fingers and blaming doesn't help us with where we are. But tuning in and discerning, okay, what's the wise action that I can take in this moment can give us some ease and some freedom in this, and enough agency and power to do what we can do, right? Sitting around wringing our hands about what a mess it is, they ain't gonna help nothing. And I find that returning to my spiritual roots, I've gone back to Quaker meeting for worship, so I've got that going in addition to my Buddhist practice. It's like, yeah, and I plugged into Quaker meeting for worship, and immediately there's places to be of service. So I'm on the street bringing presents to people who are unhoused. Like, I can do that whatever's going on, because fucking people are always unhoused because shit's a mess. Whoever's in charge, right? Like, this is life. And so I am being of service in the ways that this amalgamation can be of service. And he's up there and he's over there and whatever, all the assholes are being assholes. Okay. And it's helping me. So I just offer that like that's part of how it's unfolding in me. And another piece, before I open it up again, is this calligraphy that I made, homage to Thich Nhat Hanh. It's the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, but it's my writing, and there's no little chop. Although I do have a chop from Korea. I didn't dig it up and put it on there. It says the same thing on the other side. And I went to a rally. Some people might call it a protest. I'm finding that I really want to be what I'm for rather than what I'm against. I went to Washington, D.C., when Mr. Trump was first elected. I was there for the Women's March on Washington, and I wore a bunch of silver peace cranes like hanging around me, and a bunch of other Plum Village practitioners. We had like this sea of brown and presence and peace, because that's what I have to offer. And if I don't take care of myself and take care of the practice, I don't have that to offer, and I'm just running around like a crazy person. Because I'm still a crazy person, I don't like, I'm not suddenly free of generations of mental illness and addiction, although I myself am not an addict or diagnosed with mental illness, so that's very, very fortunate, but deeply impacted by it. And so when I come home to myself, when I go on retreat and I return to practice, or practice returns in me, and then I have something to offer to this crazy world. So that's what I got for the moment. What you got? What's going on? I guess I can have a little bit more response to stuff I already heard, if that's helpful. Let's see. Yeah, maybe if I responded fully enough for me in the moment. It's just a reminder to stop and rest and trust. Come to listen in, like the guidance is within you of where to serve and how to serve. And the more I tune to that question in small things, the more that line of communication, that channel or that conduit is available for the bigger things. And the less the needing to get it right and be perfect is like trying to steer the ship, because that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Okay. What else is here? Comments, questions, or just another 5-6 minutes of being together? I think that on the Zoom land, if you electronically or physically raise your hand, Julie will see that and can press that magic invitation to unmute if you feel called to say something. And over here, you can just grab the mic. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just confirming what you were saying, Maddie and Ariana.
Thanks, Julie.
I actually, I'd like to say something as well. Last fall, I felt like I was getting from you this real transfer of authority to myself and my own experience as I experienced it. And kind of like, but it was interesting. It was almost like the words we say are all imbued with all this authority and hierarchy and relationship to each other and stuff like that. And it seemed like you were getting to this place of like plain speaking again, from the Quakers, it was just, and it was really nice. And I hear also today of how you're saying, this is the agency, this is the way, you have the way inside you, and getting connected with that is nice. And so I really appreciate that. And I just think it's great to hear your words again. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here with you. Yeah, I sometimes forget that I'm Quaker. Like, I'm always Quaker. Right? She doesn't go anywhere. But I don't like walk around waving, hi, I'm a Quaker flag. But yeah, she's in me.
No, I don't know how to quite approach this, but I don't read the big book a lot, so I was listening pretty intently to the words. And the words were seemed to say that we should accept everything in this world is unfolding exactly as it should. Sometimes I have trouble reconciling that with the phrase you were closing with at the end called this crazy world. Now, if everything's unfolding as it should, then it's not this crazy world. What it really is the problem of my expectations that humans should be showing up other than how they're showing up. And I get very confused about how to hold that. Whenever I feel like this shouldn't be happening, because I think humans, I hear so many friends saying we could do better. But if we could do better, we would be doing better. This is what we're doing. And part of what's bringing me peace sometimes is just saying, what if this is what humans are supposed to be doing? What if humans are supposed to be orchestrating their own self annihilation? I mean, I'll go back again and again that somehow I think that this should be turning out differently. What if this should be the end of democracy? What if, like the end of the Roman Empire, this is kind of the end? What if, like hummingbirds who fucking kill each other to keep them away from the red water, what if that's what we do too? What if we're just hummingbirds, but a lot bigger and stronger with this consciousness thing? And so I don't know how to reconcile the part of Buddhism or the big book that says everything's unfolding as it should with these notices that things shouldn't really be happening this way and this world is crazy. What's really true, or how are they both true?
Thank you so much. I love that. As I was listening to you, it sounded very reconciled to me, but maybe that's because of where it is in me. I have to listen to these bells for a moment. So I did what I never do, which is started on time, and we're at our closing time, and I'm going to go over 5 minutes, but I'm going to stop myself at the 5 minute mark. So come back next week and let's continue this conversation, because that's the core. Like, that's the conversation, right? And I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know like how the balance of like reconciling versus like this is true, and maybe they're not actually different from one another. It's like, for me, as you've heard, I believe this is a fucked up, crazy world. It's a hot mess out there. Like, I'm very clear about that. And I do trust, I know, I don't just trust, that things are unfolding due to causes and conditions. Full stop. I just know that to be true in every cell, every pore, every ounce, every bit of my body. 100%. There's so many causes. In this country, first of all, we stole land to begin with, then we stole people, and then we persecuted everyone. It's like, yeah, it's a hot mess. Okay? And different people have been in power at different times. And like you said, like the fall of the Roman Empire and the hummingbirds killing each other to save them from the red water. It's like, oh, maybe this is what's supposed to be happening. And I wonder, just like for you specifically, Maddie, the playing with that word supposed to, right? I heard you say, maybe this is the best humans can do, right? If we look at the history of humans, as much as I understand it, the history of our behavior has been very deeply influenced by greed, aversion, and delusion. And it's still being deeply influenced by greed, aversion, and delusion. And as we as individuals wake up to that truth and learn to discern and recognize, oh, that's greed motivating this behavior. Oh, that's aversion inspiring that behavior. Oh, deluded, like I'm just missing it all. Oh, that's what's happening here. Then we have freedom amidst, as John Kabat-Zinn would say, the full catastrophe, as I'm calling this mess or fucked up world. Like, we can have freedom amidst all that is happening. And to know that, yep, this is what's unfolding. And I don't know what's coming next. And I don't know how fast it's going to come. But certainly I have lots of opinions, which are neither here nor there. But I'm hearing you articulating two things that maybe aren't actually so different from one another, is how it landed for me as I listened. And that we can ride the wave of that experience of like, I want it, and maybe it's not should, maybe it is, I don't know. But what I felt was I want. I want it to be better. I want it to be different. And for me, when I feel that, sometimes I can access, that was a time check, sometimes I can access that like really beautiful core in here that wants peace and love and ease and happiness and freedom for all beings, even the assholes. Because I know if the assholes were free, they wouldn't be assholes. And that they come to that behavior from some suffering. Is that helpful? Yeah, great. But yeah, I think that's the question. That's the crux of it. And that's what I hope we can explore together. Because I'm not interested in pretending that everything is okay. And I'm not interested in encouraging anyone to remove themselves from the world to survive it. But how do we tend to ourselves so that we can tend to the world? How do we tend to ourselves so we can tend to the heartache? I think it's vital that we speak up and speak out from a place of fullness and nourishment so that we're moving from our abundance and our reserves, not depleting ourselves. Because if we're all depleted, then it's just messier. It's just messier. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't have the direct quote. I recorded it. I have it on my phone very clearly, and then I turn my phone off. I'm gonna leave my phone off. But I'll remind us of the quote that's changed a lot over time as it's been offered, and the reason that it's changed is because it came into awareness verbally. And maybe all of you know this quote, so you'll see how it shows up for you, and maybe you even remember his name. I can't think of it right now, but there was a Protestant minister, I think Lutheran, during the time of the Nazis, who said, when they came for the fill in the blank, I didn't say anything because I wasn't blank. When they came for and it's a list of things. The Jews, the trade unionists, the Catholics, like when they came for the blank, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a blank. And then when they came for me, there was no one to say anything. And like, what a beautiful reminder. And here we are, aware, like, we have Timothy Snyder, the resource that Julie mentioned, I'll mention, On Tyranny, beautiful, very, very short book that he wrote, and then he's offered video on each chapter. They're very digestible. It's like a 7 to 10 minute video, 20 chapters, and then a beautiful book illustrated by Elizabeth Krug that brings it to life. You can get it out of the library, you can buy it. Like, we have some guides to support us in actions we can take that can free us from just the, which, is part of what they want, I think, is for us to be caught in that. But these actions that can lift up the heart and soul. So, to be continued, there's so much more to say. Please enjoy these bells. Noticing how the heart, mind, and body respond to the bells. Appreciating yourself for practicing, for gathering together. May any merit that had been cultivated through our practice together, may it ripple out and be a benefit to the world, rippling out through our actions of body, speech, and mind. benefiting all beings everywhere in the 10 directions. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your practice. You are welcome here without any expectation of financial compensation. And if you have the means, this is a completely volunteer-run space, and your donations keep the lights on. And if you have time or energy to offer, that is greatly appreciated as well. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for being here.